Hey there, everyone. Mikey Barmundi here, technical evangelist for AI here at Nutanix, and I'm stoked to share with you about one of the new and latest innovations in Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7, the Agent Gateway. So let's kick things off with a scenario you're probably familiar with. Your developers have direct access to OpenAI keys. Your token bill probably just exploded from those services, and the business now wants you to switch to Anthropic Claude code all without breaking anything. Sound familiar? Well, guess what? You are not alone. And I'm going to show you how Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7 solves all that, from credential management to provider abstraction to rate limiting and usage reporting, all in one platform. Let's get into it. So here's the challenge. The reality today is that for most of you out there running AI, this is how it works. Your developers probably get an OpenAI key or an Anthropic key, even from their own pocket or from their manager, or IT provides one to them. Regardless, it lives in a YAML file or a .env file or a vault, and potentially gets pushed to GitHub, or it gets compromised, and now you have an authentication and governance nightmare. There's no visibility into who's using what, there's no way to enforce policy, and no way to switch providers without a full code audit. Ugh, yuck. Now, we understand here at Nutanix that a lot of enterprises out there start their AI journeys with public free offerings, either in the public cloud or using public providers like OpenAI to prototype, and then they face significant friction when trying to move to production grade governance. So without this centralized management, you lose visibility into model usage, you can't enforce consistent access policies, and you end up with a huge bill and no answers. So how is Nutanix looking to help solve this governance and cost control challenge? Well, the centerpiece of Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7 is the Agent Gateway. It's fully production supported, it's upgrade safe, and it's ready for enterprise deployment. So the core of the Agent Gateway is based on a feature that we call the unified endpoint. So basically, a unified endpoint is a collection of the models that you want to control. These could include public models like OpenAI, they could include local models that you run on your own infrastructure. Regardless, your application sends requests to this unified endpoint using the standard OpenAPI format. The model name in the request determines the routing of which model it goes to based on load balancing. It could be rate limited, or it could include fallback, and the gateway automatically transforms these requests to the provider's schema, forwards it with proper authentication, and transforms the response back. No involvement on your part needed. So basically, your application code stays identical, whether you're calling OpenAI, Claude, or even a self-hosted model running on your own infrastructure and GPUs. So now that we understand the concept of the unified endpoint within the Agent Gateway, let's actually talk about the benefits when it comes to credential management. So as we talked about before, your developers probably need access to OpenAI and they use their own API key, but they shouldn't be managing these API keys, not the raw ones. And here's where Nutanix's credential management changes everything. So instead of giving developers the actual OpenAI credential in this example, you actually store those provider secrets. It could be OpenAI, could be Anthropic, could even be Google Gemini, centrally inside of Nutanix Enterprise AI. Then a developer gets an NAI scoped API key that's pointed to a specific endpoint or endpoints with role-based access controls baked in. The underlying provider credential never leaves your control or the governance within the platform. So now your developer application calls the Agent Gateway endpoint with their NAI scoped key. NAI handles the authentication to OpenAI on their behalf, meaning you get full abstraction, full auditability, and zero key sprawl. So, unified endpoint, check. Understanding how credential management works, even better, check. Now let's talk about switching models, or in this case, providers. The scenario that makes most AI engineers break into a cold sweat is when the business says, hey, we want to switch from OpenAI to Anthropic. Can you imagine how much stress that causes? Well, in the old world, that meant touching every app, every integration, every prompt template that hard codes a model name. Well, guess what? In Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7, you update a single routing config and never the application code. So your unified endpoint is using that open API format and provider-specific formats where it could be Anthropic or Cohere, whomever. When you want to switch providers for cost, performance, or reliability reasons, your developers notice nothing. You update one config and the business gets their Anthropic migration and everyone wins. And look, if you need resilience, you can actually configure multiple upstream providers with fallback order. So if the primary provider like OpenAI returns errors or fails health checks, the traffic automatically routes, in this example, to Anthropic or to Cohere or to the first healthy fallback within 5 seconds. All right, now let's talk about rogue tools that could be burning thousands of dollars in tokens in just seconds. This token sprawl, this token overrun, this shadow AI has become a real problem when it comes to cost control. Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7 gives you 2 levels of rate limiting tokens, and this is exactly the kind of control enterprise teams need today. One is called a global rate limit, and this is for the entire unified endpoint. So this ensures a token ceiling is never exceeded for all the models within an endpoint overall. Think of it as your circuit breaker for the entire organization, where if there's too much electricity, it trips and turns off. So the second portion you can configure is what's called the granular rate limit per endpoint API. What this means is you can create multiple API keys for a single endpoint that are role-based controlled. So what you can do is set a rate limit per API key, which prevents individual users or individual APIs or teams from exhausting that shared provider quota. These can be configured in conjunction. So the app gets a graceful rate limit response and the bill stops bleeding. No code changes required in the application, no emergency patches at 2 a.m., no angry phone calls from the CFO, just a policy update in Nutanix Enterprise AI. Now you're probably saying, Mikey, all these things sound great. Agent Gateway, we get the value. It makes sense, all these features you're talking about, but how do we operate this in a way that we can see what's happening under the covers and make those changes that are necessary when we need to make them? Well, guess what? In Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7, that's all built in. This is called the Observability Dashboard, and this is how it works. So every request is logged for a unified endpoint, and you can see all these as token consumption broken down by API or by model, which then you can map directly to your applications or teams. You can also see trends and usage over time, identify spikes, and correlate them across the board. This ensures that you can solve that AI cost challenge, which means these things are all now findable, fixable, and governable. And that's how the Agent Gateway makes token overruns and cost control easy. AI bills aren't disasters anymore. All right, time for one more thing. We've talked a lot with the Agent Gateway today about how unified endpoints and cloud provider models work together. But did you know that the Agent Gateway can also do everything we talked about today? Rate limiting, credential management, everything, with local private models that you deploy within Nutanix Enterprise AI? Pretty cool, right? I mean, this enables your organization to leverage both self-hosted and cloud provider models while maintaining centralized control, the governance, the observability, while ensuring cost optimization and data sovereignty, all within the same construct. It's that simple and it's pretty cool. All right, it's that time. It's time to wrap everything up. So let's go through a quick overview of what we talked about today. Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7. What does it mean? Well, it ships with a fully production supported and fully upgradable Agent Gateway. This includes features like credential management, rate limiting, load balancing and fallback, no code provider changes, and total observability. This also includes support for cloud provider and local models for the Agent Gateway. But are there any other features beyond the Agent Gateway just for 2.7? And the answer is absolutely. We're also including support for local MCP server deployments that is going to accompany a remote server deployment in Tech Preview. We're also including general availability of an integration with Palo Alto Prisma Airs for AI security. This includes model scanning and endpoint red teaming to accompany and ensure your AI security across your organization. In Nutanix Enterprise AI 2.7, we're also including batch inferencing for high throughput workloads. Now, I get it. These are all worth their own deep dives, and these are coming, so stay tuned. Links to the Nutanix Enterprise AI documentation, portal, and community forums are in the description. And if you want to see any of the features in this video demoed in depth or get more information on them, like credential management or the routing config, drop it in the comments and we'll get to those. And to be honest, if any of this has actually saved you money, let us know down below and then hit subscribe and stay tuned for more great information from Nutanix. We'll see you next time.